having your investments managed. You can go the traditional wealth management route and get a total investment solution that's diversified, risk appropriate, and get sustainability customization, but it's not going to be very cheap or convenient. You can go the robo-advisor route and get also a total investment solution that will be cheap, convenient, and online, but won't offer you sustainability customization. So at best, you'll get a generic kind of check the box impact option. There are also some smaller sustainability portfolios online that do offer customization based on your values. These are also cheap, convenient, and online, but they only offer US equities. So at most, this is going to be viewed as kind of an add-on to an investor's core portfolio, and they're not going to put a lot of capital there. You can get 2 out of 3, but no one offers all 3 except for Arnie. So robo-advisors have taken advantage of some pretty cool innovations in investment technology, things like streamlined online account opening, automated portfolio management and trading. We realized we can take this a step further and make full sustainability customization possible by taking advantage of other things like fraction share trading, which means you can own individual stocks directly instead of just funds, even with a pretty small account.
So sorry to interrupt. I think Brandon, I think you may not be muted right now. Perfect. Thank you so much. Sorry, guys. Continue.
All right. So then other innovations like index optimization means that we can take each user's preferences and within seconds determine the ideal weight for every stock in their portfolio. So each individual portfolio is designed to deliver the expectation of market rate returns. So we're not asking investors to sacrifice their financial goals for their sustainability values. And by offering direct stock ownership versus just ETFs, we can fully customize their equity allocation, and they have a clear understanding of what they actually own in their portfolio. And we don't impose a blanket definition of sustainability. So our users indicate what they care about, and those answers are fed into an index optimization calculation that'll generally overweight companies that are in line with their values and underweight or even exclude companies that aren't.
So our onboarding process is really simple and streamlined. It gives the user a lot of choice, but still maintains a simple control. And it's not confusing for someone who's unfamiliar with investing. Users can choose up to 15 sustainability and impact metrics to build a portfolio around, and we'll answer a standard risk tolerance questionnaire and end up with a multi-asset class, risk appropriate, and fully diversified portfolio. So why is now the right time? Interest in sustainable impact investing has increased dramatically in recent years, and millennials are particularly enthusiastic, which is great. And not only is there demand for sustainable investing, but trust in online financial platforms is also on the rise, and we'll likely see an increase in this in the post-COVID world when more of our daily lives are conducted online. So looking at major headlines around the world, it's clear that sustainable investing is a trend and one that's here to stay. We also dove deeper and talked to our community, and they all pointed to the exact same trend, but they also brought up a lot of issues with what were the current options, and so it became clear that the current solutions weren't really cutting it.
So we actually recently finished development on our prototype and are beta testing that with our potential users now. And our platform will be fully launch ready once we complete some backend integrations with a few third-party service providers, so namely the custodian and clearing firm. And our product is already designed and built to accept all of those APIs. So in my background as an investment manager, I saw increasing demand for values-aligned portfolios.
And as a creative director, all of my clients, we worked with AWS. They were all asking for mission and purpose-driven work. So it became very clear that consumers wanted to speak with their money, and this is our answer to it. So thank you very much.
All right, thanks, girls. You guys actually did very well with the time, despite our slight interruption there. Okay, judges. Yeah, you guys did great. Judges, questions?
I'll start. So the need is definitely there. There's been a lot of articles, a lot of studies on sort of the generational transfer of wealth and how the mindset is different. So the demand is definitely there, undeniably. I think the question you might get is, how do you differentiate yourself from just being a feature of an existing robo-advisor that already has billions of AUM, right? Or even a legacy. Let's say Bernstein is starting to build up their ESG practices and whatnot. How do you differentiate yourself from the bigger players?
Yeah. So in the market, I mean, most of the robo-advisors offer, you can dump your money on and answer some risk questions, and you'll get a portfolio that puts you in a bunch of kind of basic, Vanguard or iShares ETFs, and it's diversified, and then you'll sort of get, okay, I want the SRI option, I want the impact option, and that'll just give you a, swap your ETF with like an ESG ETF. And so you can get that with other robo-advisors now. But, there's nothing for, the retail investor who doesn't have, several $100,000 to have a portfolio that they can say, I care about board diversity and I care about limiting deforestation and I don't care about these other things. And so my portfolio should reflect that. And so the robo-advisors are kind of just putting a blanket sustainability definition on everyone. Whereas we're sort of coming at it as we want to be known as a sustainability platform. And so that's what our focus is. Whereas, the other robo-advisors are sort of going in the direction of offering more banking services. A lot of them are offering more, cash management services and credit cards and kind of going down that route, and aren't, sustainability is not their main focus. And then, ones like Personal Capital has been a robo-advisor, been around for a while, and other, Goldman Sachs is offering Marcus, and there's all the other big banks that are offering, the online platforms. And they're sort of also not, they could offer some sustainability option. I think our target market might not view that quite as genuine as where we're coming at it and saying we're sustainable from the start and this is our mission. And a lot of those, Personal Capital, for example, also does sort of direct index optimization, but their minimum to get that service is $200,000, which for most people is not, an attainable kind of threshold. And so we think, why exclude everyone when you can buy, 5 cents of Amazon? So you can actually get pretty good diversification, not a lot of money. And so that's kind of where we think we fit in.
I think, if I can chime in, this is Sean. I think Gwen's question is a really important one. It's a great learning opportunity. One of the biggest reasons products like yours fail is lack of differentiation in the marketplace. And so I think, number one, I like what you're doing. I had a friend at an LP try to launch something very similar to this about 10 years ago. Timing in the market and the generation wasn't right. But I think you're going to have to figure out a way to tell the story that shows how you're unique and different, because I just don't see personally right now how Robinhood couldn't offer the same set of opportunities, because you can automate the inputs to get the desired outputs. So I do believe that either you've got to figure out some sort of, there's got to be some sort of technical superiority, or there's going to have to be a brand and or scorched earth superiority based on how you position it, the overall narrative, and then how much money you raise. My question, though, and that's my comment, but my question was, what's your distribution strategy? What's your go-to-market?
Yeah, so in terms of the way we speak to consumers in terms of messaging, we want.
How are you going to acquire users? Yeah.
Yeah. So we want to hit people in a moment where something is, a real-time event has occurred. So, for example, like 2 days ago, Johnson & Johnson just released a notice that they are going to stop selling their talcum powder because it was carcinogenic. So in that moment, we would respond and sort of, push out messaging in real time and sort of target people when they are energized about an issue and show how we can sort of be that answer. We're kind of like a form of activism, sort of, if you want to actually do something about it, here's how, but also benefit yourself, and then because we have such a sustainability tilt, we think we can partner with a lot of other, sustainability organizations and have, when we're all out of this, real life events to, build a community, because we are very aware that community is going to be pretty central to this, having it be sort of a source for not just financial information, but also, good governance practices and what you can do to make your world more sustainable. So that's sort of our general targeting strategy.
And we also, on the, issue of partnerships, instead of just offering just kind of normal deposits, there's kind of a lot of, startups coming to the market that are offering, cash management options where your money is invested in a sustainable way and kind of avoids investing in fossil fuels or gun manufacturers or whatever. And so we've been talking to a lot of those companies, and by partnering with them, we can kind of share users, and then their users can use our platform, and then we would push our users to use their platform. So a lot of kind of partnership opportunities in the sustainability sphere.
Judges, we are in our feedback mode. So if you didn't ask a question and you have questions, please weave it into your feedback.
Hey both, this is Megan. Thank you so much for that pitch. Some of my first feedback, it's very simple, and I also am guilty of this. I would slow down so we have a chance to understand what you're saying, and even have less text on the slides and put it into the appendix. I really liked the slide that showed the mock-up of your product because it allowed me to visualize it, and I felt I only had a few seconds to kind of look at that mock-up. But I liked that you did that because you said you're pre-beta even. So it was a good way for me to get a look at the product. And then similar question to Sean's second question. I would have liked to have heard more about how you're going to scale and how you're going to how quickly can you grow your customer base through partnerships or whatever your strategy is to kind of quickly grow.
So you want to actually see sort of, numbers and projections against that instead of just strategy?
Both.
Okay.
The strategy and what you project the numbers would be.
Okay.
Yeah, consumer apps are really difficult to get global traction, right? You need to raise $100 million. That's the game these days. So it doesn't mean you won't be successful, but when you're thinking about it through the lens of the consumer app venture capital community, to build $1 billion company, you need a multi-billion dollar company. You need to raise 100 million.
Right.
This is, you came from P&G, you know what that means. The budget's required to create awareness, right?
Right.
So I think it's important to tell that and connect the dots between how much you plan to raise, how you plan to grow, and what those numbers look like.
Okay. Great.
Great job.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys. This is great feedback.
Feedback.
We still have 1 minute and 20 seconds. If you guys want to add on.
Sure, I'll chime in. So I really like Sean's question as well. And I think your answer was more on how you would grow, but how are you going to get the initial emails, right? Like, how are you going to get them to actually just come and sign up and check you guys out, right? And so I think that's the 100 million per billion that Sean's talking about. I think the other thing is having invested in some of these robo-advisors, a lot of them do get a lot of initial traction, right? So getting the first million AUM is not hard. Getting the first billion is hard. Breaking the 10 billion is extremely hard. So I feel like, investors that are experienced in robo-advisors would prod you on those questions. So having an answer and having a plan would be great.
Okay.
All right, so if the judges do not have any more things to say, we will move on to our next startup. All right, so next up, we have Scott Detterman with Official Seats.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Talk about timing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. All right.
Sorry,
so,
Scott. I'm just
no problem. I am Scott Detterman. I am the founder of Official Seats, and we are a startup whose goal is to eliminate scalping from the concert ticketing space. So it's going to be a little bit of an interesting story now, but planning for the future. So we've all been in that situation when you want to go buy tickets to your favorite concert and they go on sale and boom, sold out right away. What happened? Right now, everybody in the industry is trying to grind out fees. They sell you a ticket, they throw in a fee. They try and get you to resell it, they charge a fee. I'm taking the different approach. Whereas people like Ticketmaster actually like scalpers and help them, I want to make scalping unprofitable. So if they try and buy and resell a ticket, they're going to lose money. If scalpers lose, both the artist and the fans, we're all winning. So what's the situation look like right now? Currently, when a concert goes on sale, there's a face value price set in which the tickets sell at that price. That's it. Like any market, there's a pretty broad willingness to pay for the customers. Some people are willing to pay early and pay a little bit more. Maybe they want better seats, or maybe there's even customers who can't afford face value and still willing to pay less. In both those situations, the artist is losing out. One, they're not making money, and the other, they're not having the fans show up. So what makes official seats different? So we use a algorithm-controlled dynamic pricing, which allows the market to actually set the price of tickets. If a concert's very popular, the price stays fairly high. But on the other end, if a concert is not selling all that well, we want to try and lower those prices so we can get the concert to sell out and get the people in the seats. So what this actually does is mimic how prices for concert tickets function on the secondary market. So secondary, think of StubHub, Vivid Seats, all these sorts of places. So the end result of this is the fan is able to get a ticket to the concert at a fair price that they know is authentic, and also being able to fill up the venue with as many people as they can fit in there. So what this does is actually drive significantly more revenue for the artist, while the fan pays actually the same, if not less. So how much, we'll go into that a little bit later. This is just kind of a theoretical idea of what it is. The other side of it is maybe if the tickets start getting, it's not as popular, maybe the fan can get in under face value, so you can give yet another benefit to them. So there's obviously some barriers. This is a significant divergence from the way the industry currently functions. However, if you look at what fans are comfortable with, they're used to buying tickets or buying Uber and Lyft, which have dynamic pricing. Hotels and airlines also are using this as well. On the other side of the equation, artists, they're a little concerned about having initially higher prices. The other side of it, that they come out and be actually supportive of their fans, say, hey, we're trying to help you, we're trying to stop scalping, we're trying to make this cheaper for you, and can be seen as consumer friendly. As I'm sure we're all comfortable or remember Pearl Jam being in the 90s. So why this industry? Why have I chosen to work on this? Ticketing is a 50-year-old business, working in a 50-year-old business model that kind of got worse by the internet and it's the laws that govern it. A lot of the incumbents they're large, but they're also very complacent with their strategy and their revenue models. They're just trying to grind up money while not actually providing anything differentiated from each other or to actually help the fans or even the artists. Artists are missing out anywhere from 50 to 300 and even more % of the face value on popular shows. In the sports industry, which is better defined, they're missing out about $9 billion a year, which is more than actually their revenue that they bring in. So they're losing more than 100%, or missing out on more than 100% of their revenue. There's certainly some challenges in the music industry. They're pretty averse to change. A lot of the artists and management, they don't really know how much money they're actually not earning or missing out on, but also they don't know that there's a better way. A lot of these are heavily relationship-based, in which management wants to keep the artist just for as long as they're popular, and they don't really want to rock the boat, so they just kind of keep things going. And so with that, I'll describe my product is in MVP stage. There's not a whole lot to show, to be honest. A lot of it occurs in the back end of it, and that's in the pricing side. But the product actually is based on an API that's already up and running at a current concert venue in Chicago. Well, current as I mean before all this. With that, I'll open up to questions.
Quick question: Do you have what's the exact business model for this? Like who are you targeting? Yeah, are you running off a SaaS solution? Like, what does that look like?
So it would be not necessarily a SaaS solution. The actual way to monetize it would be taking a percentage of the actual ticket sales. So rather than just a fee, you take a cut of the ticket. So in other words, you're incentivized to drive value for them. So the more money that they're bringing in per ticket, the more money you make, and that's on a net basis as opposed to an individual.
So are you partnering with venues, or are you partnering with labels, or?
With venues directly. So the independent venues, i.e. non-Live Nation affiliated, that are big enough to actually be able to bring in an artist that calls out. So the goal is bring it into the concert venue in the theater space, and then quickly pivot, if you will, towards the sports industry. Sports industry, DraftKings and others have shown that they want to be in on this as a partner. And they also have the ability to fight somebody as large as Live Nation.
Gotcha. One last question. I don't want to hog the time. have you guys, do you guys have any like firm like beta testers, any customers that are currently like set up, ready to test the product?
Everybody in the industry wants it to be proven first. So the short answer is no. And what I was planning on, in kind of before this started, was essentially to hire, I have a music promoter I've been working with who's fairly famous enough to bring in the big artists. And the idea is prove it, pay for the artist to show up, basically buy a concert, use my system as a proof of concept. And then once you say, hey, I made you not instead of 50 grand, you should have made 90 or 150 grand. That's the proof of concept. So in other words, no, not currently, but that's what I was working on before this all struck.
Hey,
Gotcha, thank
Scott,
you.
I have a question for you. What is your ask from this pitch?
My ask is obviously for a bit of feedback, but on the pitch side is looking to get investors. So part of this comes down to a financial side and kind of what direction to take it in. I'm looking for about $400,000, and what that allows to do is to actually go down both the seated and the general admission venue. And then what that then creates is more security to work across the different industries. So for example, theater, they're not profit driven. They're often mission driven, or for the love of it. They might have fan clubs. So what that allows is to build up other sides of the technical side to get it into different industries quicker, as well as, unfortunately with Rolling Stone, they're very keen to write about this, but only once there's an investor or an artist on board. They're not into the theory, they want proof.
Sean here. So I think you've got a very raw pitch. I think there's a lot of opportunity here to reorient your story. There's a few things missing, and there's a few things out of order that would help you better codify it. So let me think about where I want to start. So the why now slide should go to the front of the deck, not the back. Here's why now, because the enemy is this. This creates this kind of problem and this kind of opportunity, and here's why I'm attacking it. And then here's how I'm attacking it. It's not obvious what the product itself is. I hear API. I know that Brandon asked about SaaS. I don't know if it's in-app, if it's native. You're partnering with the venues. What does that look like? That needs to be clear. Then there needs to be a lot less text in your conversation, like Megan had said earlier. There needs to be more visual, perhaps a hero slide that takes you through the journey that says, the venues, the artists, and the ticket sellers are all getting screwed. And here's why, and here's how I'm planning to address it with this new different approach, which takes this form of a product. And then my business model looks like this. And no, I don't have any traction yet, but I'm working on validating my MVP with this venue in this way, with this producer artist. And once I do, my ask is going to be to raise X amount of dollars for this reason. Does that make sense, Scott?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, there's a pony in there somewhere. We just got to, flesh it out. But I think
it's a little different.
I
I haven't been preparing for VC presentations as much because
Great.
want product and revenue. So I've been working on that.
Well, hey, traction always speaks louder than words, brother. I'm with you on that. But you should go through a storyboarding exercise with someone on how to organize this deck, and then look at some others that have been successful in raising money in the I would say in the sports and media and entertainment space, and just look at that construct, and then just start telling the story that way. That's my advice. I'm not sure. I can't give you any feedback on how good the business model is and any of the rest of that stuff until I see it in that order, personally.
I'll add just two comments. One is, so I'm not as familiar with this space, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. Number one is, why can't StubHub do this? Right? I know they're not doing it right now, but why can't they? And the second thing is, you started your pitch by saying, scalpers are making all the money. I'm preventing scalping, but scalpers can still use your platform, buy it, when the tickets first come out, and as it gets closer and the seats are selling out, we sell it on your platform, right? And so, how do you prevent yourself from being the electronic platform for scalpers?
So you want to keep a price movement that's kind of the negative slope of the price, how it moves over time. That's how you prevent the scalper from actually making money. So that's fairly straightforward. There's a lot of financial frictions that prevent them from really making money. So you got to get the margins small enough. You don't have to be perfect. But on your first question, StubHub and those function as a market. So they just drive demand. If you want to do primary sales, which is what this would be, you actually have to capture supply. So they actually go at different sides of the industry. A bigger competitor is Ticketmaster, and they, much like the incumbent that they displaced, they're working on an antiquated business model. So that's the bigger competitor. Why couldn't they, or like the one that we used, Eventbrite, or somebody else do this? And realistically, they are comfortable grinding fees without helping anyone.
Judges, we have a little less than 2 minutes for feedback.
I think a lot of the feedback was given throughout this, but just another quick thing to like add on the deck is spent a lot, like the previous feedback, you just want to go, kind of go back, do some storyboarding. Also, just look at some of the core pieces that you need to identify, like your problem, getting, into the market opportunity, solution, and from, investment standpoint, your business model is key. How are you going to make money? What is your go-to-market? So you want to just kind of focus on some of those key areas, and within those slides, you can really kind of build a great foundational story.
Yeah, and I would add one more thing. I think, Scott, you need a better answer to Gwen's question. Telling us it's straightforward doesn't mean anything to us. You need to show us what it means to be straightforward and how you're going to combat the scalper. And then I think you just have to have a little bit better answer to, why Spotify, or why Spotify. It's Spotify in the brain today. I was doing a deal earlier around them. Why Eventbrite or StubHub or anybody else isn't doing this, and why you're the one to do it. So just, you need to flesh those stories out. You strike me as a very technical guy who has a real solid understanding of the problem from the inside out. You just need to work on describing it to laymen like us.
A very astute observation. It's dead on.
All right, so thanks, judges. We will move on to our next startup. It is Al Andrejas with CoilPay. Oh, you're muted.
Hey everyone, here we go.
There you go.
Okay, just see, yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so hi, my name is Saryash and I'm the co-founder of Coil. So what is Coil? Coil is a payment-enabled smartwatch bought by banks in bulk and issued for free instead of plastic cards. So did you know that 83% of Generation Z would like to pay with a wearable, but only 14% of them actually owns one? So that leaves almost 70% of the market completely untapped. So why is that? Well, because the current solutions are just too expensive. With Apple Watch coming in at $400, and the cheapest wearable that you can pay with is around $160, which is a Fitbit. And we are targeting banks because they don't have enough differentiating products to differentiate one bank from another. And they're currently really desperate to innovate because they're being destroyed by other fintechs like Revolut, N26, Apple, Google, and everybody who is coming into this area. So now you're asking, well, everybody has a phone. Why wouldn't they just pay with their phone, right? Well, everybody has a phone and they can pay with their phone, but they're not paying with their phone. Only 24% of iPhone users actively use Apple Pay in brick and mortar places. And more than 80% of Apple Watch users are actively using Apple Pay. So there is a big difference here. So with Coil, banks can now get new customers from other banks. They can retain the old ones from switching to fintechs. And on top of all of that, they can increase transactions. So we currently have 3 sign-up bank partners in Europe with 22 total banks in the pipeline. We will deploy around 150,000 devices this year alone, and the current pipeline interest is around 10 million devices. We're seeking 2.5 million, which will allow us to deploy with the first banks and start the conversation with the bigger banks, like the second largest bank in Mexico. This is our team. We're all experienced entrepreneurs with multiple exits. McKinsey managers, bank presidents, and our CPO built payment solutions like Apple Pay, Garmin Pay, Samsung Pay, and pretty much any pay you can think of. And our advisors are Stanford professors, C-level Pinterest employees, IIM professors, and high-level Philips professors employees. And so let me tell you a little bit more about our device. So basically, it's a full-on smartwatch. You can answer any Jack calls. You can have all the fitness tracker capabilities. It can also run apps. We will get to that. But because it was built for payments, it has a lot of smart wallet features. It has a lot of unique features that you're not going to find anywhere else. Like, of course, it has all the swipe through cards, but it also have card recommendations. You can also load all of your access cards to it, and it always works, even if it runs out of battery. And if we compare it to other solutions that are out there on the market, you'll see that Coil has a lot of unique features that you're not going to find even with the most expensive solutions. So let me tell you a little bit more about the first financial health bracelet. Well, Coil is integrated within the bank ecosystem. And because of that, it's comprised out of not just the device, but it's the whole thing. So it's comprised out of Coil Pay and Coil Dev. So Coil Pay, it allows seamless integration with any existing bank payment solution, and it serves as a contactless payment platform in a box for banks that do not have one. And Coil Dev is essentially a development solution for Coil wearables and an app store for Coil One users. Because banks buy in bulk, they don't buy 100 devices, they buy 100,000 devices. There is a big opportunity for us to build a marketplace for apps upon our solution. And banks love this because for the first time ever, they can leverage their customers and create meaningful partnerships with other brands and their users. And they have essentially free reign to their wrists. And with Coil, they can build apps like club memberships, hotel chain access, and a lot of unique features that we can talk about later on. Market is big. It's 200 billion right now, and it's going to quadruple in the next 5 years. We expect to deploy around 5 million devices in the next year and a half. And we make money from device sales. We take a cut from each payment, and we make money from apps and add-on services. So if you would like to see our device in person and how it works, please do not hesitate to ask. Thank you.
Judges, questions?
I'll start. So might be a dumb question. You mentioned earlier.
Have you? So,
you mentioned there was one slide that said 24% of iPhone users pay with iPhone, but 80% of wearables pay with wearables. Why is that?
I don't know. I think people just don't prefer to use phones to pay because it's not that much different from taking out a wallet from your pocket, right? And taking out a phone from your pocket, it does not differ that much from the experience of a watch. So Apple did a lot of testing, and we got our metrics from Visa and from McKinsey as well. And people just prefer to pay with wearables. It is how it is, I guess. But yeah.
I think to follow up on that question, maybe there's a better analysis that could be more apples to apples. I'm even thinking a few just thoughts that come to my mind, not being totally well versed in this, that early adopters, people who own the Apple Watch are early adopters in general for new technology, and how many people are early adopters. and how big is that total addressable market versus the broader population that has the phone. So I agree with Gwen's question. I also had that question, and would like a more apples to apples.
Of course. So, I can tell you the statistics. So 830 million units of iPhones have been sold from 2015 to 2018 to 2020. I'm sorry. And 122 million units of Apple Watches have been sold. So I don't know if we're talking about an early adoption market, because those are quite big numbers, right? And for every although there are 7 times more iPhones sold in the market, there is for every Apple Watch payment, there is only 1.6 payments done on iPhones. So there is a big difference, and people just prefer to pay with the watches. So I think it's just the better UI. It's just a better use case. It's more convenient, just to swipe through and just pay with your watch. But yeah.
I have one more question that's a little bit different. So you put that the watch is free on the slide. Is that because the banks are the buyer and the end user is getting it for free? I would love to understand that a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. So banks buy them in bulk. We sell them almost at cost, because our whole thing is, to get as many risks as possible, because we take a cut from each payment, and we that's kind of our hack, right? So we essentially hacked this distribution channel through banks, and they give them away for free. So a basic version they give away for free, and then we have a premium version, which is like a metal one, and it's essentially like a gold card. Those have to be paid from the user, but it's essentially on the bank side if they choose to give the premium ones for free or no. But we usually do recommend. And then I do have another answer to that. Right now everybody has a credit card, right? And just ask yourself how many people would have a credit card if they would have to pay $400 for it, and how many have one because you get one for free from a bank. It's essentially the same thing, right?
All right, judges, we are in feedback.
Yeah, Sean here. So just again, this is a matter of maybe it was the way I heard it, and this might be a language barrier, but you said plastic cards as opposed to credit cards in the first slide. So it took me about 3 slides before I could figure out what the hell that meant, and that's just me.
Okay.
Because it wasn't obvious to me. I immediately went down the tchotchke path, which I like. I like the tchotchke distribution model. It makes a lot of sense. If a bank is willing to pay you for a bulk amount of these things and hand these out as a credit card alternative, I think that's fantastic. I think my other question is, have you validated that the banks are going to do this? Yeah, and have you run a test to get banks to distribute to their customers and get their customers to start using paying? And do you have any data around that?
Yes. So like I said, we currently have 3 sign-up bank partners. We could sign up more, actually. We have a...
No, I'm not asking. I knew you had that. Are any of them actually buying and distributing? And then are you getting user
Yes.
metrics to prove that people are going to use it?
Yes. So we do have contracts, but we are going to launch with the first bank in around 3 months. What we are doing is we have 3 banks in Europe, and then we have 2 banks right now in the Middle East, because we were in Dubai because we were part of the Startup Bootcamp FinTech program there. And we're going to launch 1,000 devices, which with each of those banks, and then we're going to test. We don't want to launch 1,000 devices with just one bank. We want to launch with multiple banks because all of their marketing efforts are going to differ and everything, and we would like to get as clear of a picture as we can. Yeah, but with the first bank,
I get it. Okay, that wasn't obvious to me in the presentation unless I missed it, but I think it's just really important for you to highlight what that POC looks like and just represent what stage you're in, right? Because right now it sounds like you're already in market, but you're not. Because I think personally, I'll be very interested in taking another look at this once you've run those POCs to see what those engagement metrics look like.
Yeah.
And then I have one other question. And by the way, great presentation. You clearly know what you're doing. I think the other founders that we've heard from so far could learn a lot from how you storyboarded and how you represented yourself here. So it's obvious you guys have done this before, and that's great. I'm curious about the unbanked community and what your thoughts are, and the bank's thoughts are around that as a value proposition for acquiring new banking customers by handing these out free to the unbanked communities around the globe, which represents still the overwhelming majority of humans. And we've brought 2.5 billion out of poverty since the year 2000, and we're going to continue to do that. What's your take and what's your thought on that?
This is exactly the conversation we had with the banks in the MENA region, because they have problems with with the workers that are not banked, we are talking with Al Ansari, which is the biggest transfer. I don't know if you know them, but they're really big.
Yeah.
And they would also like to use this and test that market as well.
Yeah, I think that's your biggest market by a mile. That's my view. Is you use this as a way to go after the unbanked community and partner until you crush the the remittance industry.
Yeah,
I think those two things together make this a really powerful story. And I'd like to hear from you again once you validated that use case.
Perfect.
And I'd actually like to see you. I'd like to see you validate the use case I suggested as well. Do 1,000 units. Do 1,000 units to the unbanked. Do 1,000 units to Ansari or to Western Union.
Yeah.
Show me how you can use this for remittances. And then I'd like to talk to you more.
Sure. If you can just leave me your email, I can send you our deck, and then we can talk after we tested it out.
Yeah, Anne can connect us. Right.
Oh,
Anne?
perfect.
Yeah, founders, definitely feel free to reach out to me if you want any contacts. So we are out of time, but I wanted to give others, judges who haven't spoken yet, well, at least in terms of feedback, to give a quick feedback to Al. I think that's maybe Brandon. I don't know if you had another last parting words for Al.
No, Sean touched base on the story and on the deck. So.
Okay, great. All right, so we will move on. Okay, so next we
Thank
have.
you, everybody.
Yes, thank you, Al.
Thank you.
All right, so next we've got Sophia Barreto of Task Nation. Let's see. You're currently muted, Sophia. Yeah, bottom left. There you go.
Hello?
Yes, great.
All right. So thank you so much for having me. And I'm saying hello tonight from Lisbon. Basically.
Oh, wait, hold on. Your presentation isn't, you haven't shared your screen yet with us.
Sorry. Okay, it's on?
Yes, it is. It's not on your first slide though, so you may want to go all the way to the front. Perfect. Yeah.
All right, it's the second slide. So I was already working on this before the COVID-19 hit the wall. But I think that now it's even more important than it was before, because families are struggling to make ends meet. So what we're suggesting is to offer a new platform to handle all the home bills. When I say all, I'm talking about everything from utilities to credit to insurance. So it's a mixture, everything that you pay every month in your home, we will be dealing with it. There's huge problems in every one of those markets. There's a lot of lack of trust. There are top in all the rankings for lack of trust. The processes themselves are super hard to master, and there's no easy way available of getting things done in every single one of those. So what we are suggesting is to develop a platform that would take all the bills from you. You register once, and we just handle it for the rest of your life, or for as long as you want, as the way you want, automatically. The solution that I'm talking about is based on AI and machine learning. We're all digital natives. I spent 15 years in Tel Aviv doing digital products, particularly business to consumer. So I've done over 20 products probably, because in some companies I did a lot more than one. We are a group of friends that have kept in touch and have worked together quite a few times throughout our lives. We've known each other for over 20 years, so we're very, very comfortable working and getting things done together. And you might ask, how much exactly are we talking about? How much could families save with this kind of tool? And we estimate that in Europe, you could save anything from 160 to 2,000 euros a year. Obviously, it depends how often you do this, and it depends what is the mix of services that you have, but you could even save more than this. And if it happens automatically without you having to lift a finger, I think that it's very, very attractive. I would do it tomorrow, but then I'm not the target. It works also very, very simply. You register once for each one of the verticals with your details of consumption, your personal details, and the options you would like these to work for you. And from day one, you start saving money. We do have a few competitors already in the market, but they're trying to solve the savings problem, which is the same problem we're dealing with, but they're not going it the same way that we are going about it. A lot of us have worked for a long time in the banking industry, so we're very familiar with how things work in that area. And we would like to come to the other side and basically start defending the consumer and everything that has to do with the financial institutions. This is our plan. We've worked all over the world, and we've managed large companies all over the world. But we would like to focus this product to start with in Europe and start in Portugal and just move our way east in the south and then take it from there. Why? Because this is where we have the network established, and it will be very easy for us to enter one market every 6-9 months. And we would like to start with the utilities and telecom verticals first, and then do something that no one else besides banks do, which is take over your bank account and manage it for you. Identify all the opportunities that you have there, and just work on it for you. But apart from that, this I cannot even see, we will have all the financial segments coming after that. We expect to have a break even at around month 15. And we're bringing a lot of benefits to the consumer. We're first in the market to actually do this set of services together. So savings is obviously the most important thing, but it's also super easy to use. When we leave the full control in the hands of the consumer, which is also, you know, the data protection issue, we even go further than that. The revenue model is slightly different from what is usually done in the market, because the market works on affiliation, a very high price for each switch. And what we would like to do is we would like to have a fee for the consumer, because we want to have a contract for the service we provide, rather than just saying, you know, we're super friendly and we don't charge you anything. Then in the end of the day, you're charging, never mind that story. And the flat fee for the partners, we want to break it down. We want to bring it way down, and we're talking about between $35 and $60. What's practiced right now in the market throughout Europe, I don't know what happens on the other side, it's something between 60 to 100 and many per switch. price comparison sites, there's a lot, and they've been around since the internet. And that's actually why people go to the internet, to look for everything they want to buy. So we're not trying to prove that a comparison, a solution based on a comparison works. We're just trying to prove that the way we want to do it works. So I've run a few campaigns on social media to establish the needs and the interest, and that was proven. And I visited 93% of the market in terms of our future partners to run our concept by them and to see if they would want to work with us. As it happens, EDP, which is the main partner, not only wants to work with us, but wants us to open in 3 countries at a time and partner with us. So it was very, very well received. And this is what we've done so far. We actually started working full-time on this, my partner and I, in March when the stay-at-home thing hit. And we had done all the validation in different periods because we were all doing different stuff and we took our time. Since March, we've been on this 100%. I've designed the product and I have, I've done all the experience. I have a designer now finishing that. And we're getting ready for start development. So I'm looking for between 300 and 600,000 euros of investment. And this is us. I've told you a little bit about me. My partner, I've known him since we were like 20. And he has been general manager of Diageo all over the world, and of TeamWe, which is a mobile IT company, leader in its field also, and he managed Asia, Asia Pacific, Middle East, and Latin America. So we're all quite experienced, and we're very, very enthusiastic of finally being able to put our knowledge and experience behind something that it goes a little bit beyond ourselves. That's it. Thank you,
Sophia. Judges?
So I'm having trouble understanding that. So how are you said you're consolidating people's bills? Like how are you saving them money? Are you guys placing like which bills are the most important to pay? Like how is that consolidation in a time of crisis similar to COVID, I guess, helping people?
Well, as it happens, as I mentioned to you, our idea, the plan and everything else, it came before, but now it's even more important because people now value money or are a lot more aware every single euro they spend. So we take your bills, and at least in Europe, I don't know how it works in the US, but I think it's the same. As long as you have competition, you have fluctuations in considerable fluctuations in prices. So as a matter of fact, even the regulatory institutions, they tell us how much people are missing out because they don't switch suppliers. But it's super difficult if you pick up an invoice for electricity, for you to figure everything out and what that is, it takes you a long time. So people do it once. We want to take that from their hands and do that work for them automatically over and over and over again. And we can switch them without any interference in the consumption at all and keep them on the low tariff permanently. We can also do that with your mortgage, and we can do that with your health insurance, and we can do that with your car insurance, because we are all leaving a lot of money on the table by not checking all these services, the little details every single year. Actually, you can even do it every week, but who has time to do that, right? The thing is, no one has time to do this kind of stuff. And once it's done automatically, then you're assured that the whole process is being.
So how is it much different than how is it much different than like a savings app? If I'm saying that I have all of these like bills to kind of my automatic payments that I have to make, and it's tracking the rest of my spending, I guess.
Well, because that is done by your bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's done by your bank, and I can assure you the bank doesn't want you to save money. and is not going to get out
Well,
of
it's
their
not done by,
way.
I mean, the part that's usually a third-party app that's plugged into your accounts.
Right. So I'm not familiar with that specific app, but I'm just going to ask you a question. They identify how much you're paying for this and for that, and what happens after that?
I mean, usually buckets, ones I've seen in the past or I've tried to use, like usually buckets it into the various places that you're spending money.
Yeah, you get an
And you
idea
might
of
be able
your
to, and you might be, and
expenses.
you might set a daily or weekly limit on what you want to spend, and they'll show that versus previous weeks, or if you're going over, it's
So
giving you a little bit more
you're
insight.
monitoring it, right? You get an
Yeah.
idea of what's happening, but no one is doing the work for you of comparing your specific consumption against every single plan that's available in the market right now and telling you, you should switch to these guys. And if you want to switch to these guys, I will do it for you. And I will do it on every single bill that you have. Ultimately, what we want to do is we want to manage your finances for you. And we just want to take over your bank account and tell you what's happening, what's not happening, how much you have to spend, how much you're spending that you don't have. And we will provide you with the whole information, but we will act on it as well. I mean, we will explain you once what we're doing, then we will act on it automatically. And then on your profile, obviously, you have all the records. You can stop us anytime, you can question, you can change the settings so that it goes a bit slower or a bit faster or whatever. So it's not an app that is there educating you. We think that there's a lot of education out there, that all the information is there. There's no lack of information. It's just difficult to master every single service that you use and know where you're paying too much and where you're paying too little. You might be paying too little on something that you're going to need a lot in a couple of years' time, and we know that already. So it's a mixture also. The benefit is threefold, if you like.
All right, we're in feedback.
Well,
So I'll chime in just, so I do get what, I do wish a service like this existed. And I think it's actually relatively easy to do that for switching utilities or switching credit cards, right? But you mentioned mortgage, you mentioned insurance, those things take a lot more underwriting and a lot more work.
that's right.
So I'm just not sure if AI is there.
Right. So, I mean, if you look at my team, I have 3 people that are experts in the banking industry. I have 1 person that is an expert, that's myself, in experience, consumer experience. And I have someone else for the telecommunications industry. And we're gonna get that sorted when we are developing the product with algorithms we're going to have in place. You are right, it's not that simple, but we know how to do it. I can hear you.
Yeah, I've seen apps like this and products in the past in the US, like lowermybills.com and some others that have worked quite well. I agree with Gwen. I think this is a needed service. You guys clearly have a great team. You know what you're doing. I like your market development and distribution strategy. And again, I don't know. I have limited experience with the banking system in Europe. Back to another Gwen question that I've heard her ask a couple of times, which is like, how is this not a feature inside of a banking app? Because it is. I have all my bills are paid through my bank through AutoPay now.
Did
now
they
I know
ever
they're not.
call you asking you to switch and telling you that you're wasting money? Did you ever get a call from that? Because I never did a call like that when I was in the bank.
I agree today, but the minute they see you get traction, do they buy you or do they compete with you? And that's, to me, that's the feed. That's what I would say is go out there and get some traction so that it's easier for one of these banks to buy you than to compete with you. That's my view.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, Sophia, thanks for that pitch. I really appreciated that you said that you had done a social media campaign and had done some kind of market testing with a few partners and got that positive feedback. So I thought that was a really good thing that you should keep up. And I kind of wanted to hear more about that. And maybe it's just that you're too early on that campaign, but I wanted to hear more about how these beta users, what kind of feedback or testimonies they had that were real life, and how you kind of looked at those users in terms, for the long game, in terms of lifetime customer value. You kind of hinted at it, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that.
All right. Okay.
Does anyone else? Okay. All right. So we're going to move on. So next we have Mark Henchett with Atlas Motor Vehicles. Mark? Yeah, awesome.
All right, everybody can see my screen?
Yep.
All right, well, thank you for having me. My name is Mark Hanchett. I'm the CEO of Atlas Motor Vehicles, and we are an electric vehicle startup with a focus on work-centric vehicles. Oops, sorry, gotta be on the right screen. Our team consists of myself as the founder of Atlas Motor Vehicles. I have over 10 years experience launching over 32 electrical, mechanical, and software products, everything from mobile to cloud systems to embedded systems to weapon systems like this little project right here. This is a taser and a 12-gauge shotgun shell. My team consists of experts with backgrounds that are very experienced from companies like NIO, Byton, Axon, where I come from, as well as Tesla and various others. We've built an incredible team with an incredible experience that really want to do something completely different in how we focus on electrification of vehicles of the future. Now, our core focus is on building vehicles and technology for work-centric vehicles. We are not chasing consumers. We are not chasing lifestyle vehicles. We are not chasing adventure vehicles like some of the competition that's out there. We are very much so focused on those that use products like a pickup truck for work purposes, vehicles that tow and haul very heavy loads, do it every single day. And one of the most important aspects of that, you can get towing and hauling and all these capabilities with electrification, but what you can't get is your time back. That is one of the downfalls of electrification today. Some of you may own a Tesla. I do. I also own a diesel pickup truck. And as we look at electrification of the future, their vehicles are very much so built the exact same way as you build an internal combustion engine vehicle today. Even Tesla's vehicle is built that same way. What we did was, before we even started building a vehicle, we focused on the technology, the solution, trying to drive a direction towards what the customer is truly asking for. And the most innovative thing that we have actually been able to accomplish is a revolutionary step forward in battery technology, with a goal of charging your vehicle in 15 minutes or less. Because when it comes to life and work-life balance, the most important thing is your time. That's the thing you cannot get back. And we wanted to give that back to people that use their vehicle that may have to charge it every single day. Now, we focused again on that battery technology in the very beginning. You'll see a little bit of a picture there. That was our first prototype of a battery pack that charged in 12 minutes, 37 seconds. More recently, in March, we completed a test where we did a charge time of 9 minutes and 26 seconds. To put that in perspective, the best that GM is doing with their Hummer pickup truck that's coming out is 1 hour and 30 minutes. The best that Rivian does with their adventure pickup truck is 1 hour and 20 minutes. The best that Tesla does is 1 hour and 6 minutes. The best that Porsche does with the Taycan is 22 minutes to 80%. We are doing 100%. and 9 minutes and 26 seconds. That is fantastic. We do that through a very unique design, some thermal management changes, and we've actually designed it, and we have a patent pending on a proprietary cell technology from a construction standpoint that actually uses off-the-shelf existing chemistries that are out there today. And this technology is applicable through existing solutions as well as solid state technology. Now, again, we're going after the work market. We're not going after the consumer market. So there's plenty of opportunities out there. We have the upfitter market. We've got interest from Winnebago. We've got interest from companies that do last mile delivery in Japan, here in the US, that are looking to retrofit their vehicles. We have interest from a company in the Midwest that wants to take our battery technology as well as our platform, the core sort of vehicle technology, and put that inside ambulances and fire trucks. Vehicles that today are traditionally not electrified for the most obvious reason, which is they have to have that uptime constantly. They cannot have downtime. They cannot have rest time. They're in emergency services, as well as other markets where they're looking at the opportunity to implement that battery technology into something that's not even a vehicle dependent application, like equipment in the agriculture industry. Today, we have $1.5 billion in reservation interest for our existing XT pickup truck, which is that sexy, cool thing that you can touch. But obviously, the core of our market approach is actually built on the battery technology, that pillar, moving to the platform and moving up. Of that $1.5 billion in reservations that we have today, 3,000 of those are committed. They've been actually invested in the company. They bought off on it. They cannot get out. They're diehard fans of ours, and they're looking for the next opportunity that's there. Now, our business model is very, very different to traditional OEMs and traditional sort of sales. Now, we are doing the direct sales, configure on the website, select what you want, then we configure the vehicle, mostly done in the battery pack and then shipped to the end customer. That's our end goal. That's what we're advertising we'll do there. But there is actually a shift in the industry, particularly in the agriculture market, where they are looking for a hybrid approach for subscription, for maintenance and uptick of the vehicle, but they're also looking for a program where they can get a new vehicle every single year. They typically drive those things very hard. They drive them, the average ownership of a vehicle in the agriculture industry is 12 months. Within 12 months, they go back and they get a brand new vehicle because it reaches that point past the warranty date, or they've actually driven it so far and abused it so far that that vehicle needs to be retrofitted, and needs to be upgraded before it can actually go back out in the field. And there's tertiary markets where people buy new, then used. With that subscription program, we can start that circular economy refurbishment program. Now, our launch plan is built on these pillars. We're starting with the technology and being a component supplier with some of the core stuff that we're building. Within 2 months here, we will actually have a test station set up where we have a 1.5 megawatt charging station right here in Mesa, Arizona. That will be the first in the world of that kind. We are starting the development of the manufacturable solution for the battery technology. We're looking to launch that in Q4 of this year. That's the first pillar. That's the core of this sort of technology and this approach. We have interested parties from Caterpillar to Winnebago to others that are not even looking for the vehicle technology. They just want the battery technology. They want to get that in their hands in Q4 this year. They want to start testing that to start looking at implementation into electrification options in heavy equipment industries and some of those upfitter and trailer markets following that. After that, we have the platform, which is the next sort of step there. And the focus on that is 80% of everything that makes a vehicle go. The only thing in the body after that is some seats, some airbags, some windows, and some creature comforts like HVAC, heating and cooling. Outside of that, everything else is integrated into the platform. And again, that's a stepwise approach because we have vendors that are actually interested in that. They're not necessarily interested in the more expensive option, which is launching a full-fledged automotive vehicle. And the third pillar, of course, which is that, again, that sexy, cool thing you can touch. That's what everybody wants, which is the XT pickup truck. Our business model is truly actually built on the technology and the platform, getting it out there, being the company that powers those heavy-duty vehicles and equipment. Imagine you're a farmer or construction company You have a number of vehicles in your fleet. If it's all powered by Atlas, it all works within that ecosystem. We can drive maintenance costs down. We can drive your overall vehicle ownership costs down, but we can improve your overall performance and efficiency with less downtime compared to existing electrification options today that take hours to charge. Forklifts take 4 to 6 hours to charge. We have a customer in California that wants us to implement this, completely replace their forklift batteries so their downtime goes from 6 hours to 15 minutes. Now, people love us.
Mark, excuse me, Mark. Sorry, you're way over time right now. So if you can wrap up.
That was
soon.
it.
All right. Okay. Oh, okay. Perfect.
Sorry, I didn't hear the buzzer go off.
Timer go off. Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry. I did turn it off pretty early. All right, judges.
Of that 1.5 billion dollars in reservations, did you say 3,000 people have paid for it, or $3,000? What's the number in terms of like prepaid?
Yeah. So of 1.5 billion dollars is roughly
1.5 billion. You said 1.5 billion. Yeah. And then
in reservations, correct, is a little over 18,000 reservations for the pickup truck. Of that 18,000, 6,000 individuals have actually committed funds to ensure that they reserve their place in line, and they've actually invested in the company. We had a humble beginning, so we started with crowdfunding. I started with $20,000 in the bank and got this thing moving. I had to figure out a way to launch this. I come from basically nowhere, had no team, said, hey, let's see if this thing works. Let's see if people buy off on it. We actually went down the route of doing basically a pre-IPO, so equity crowdfunding. We have 6,000 people that have actually committed funds into the company, anywhere from $200 to $20,000 towards a vehicle.
And what were you guys able to raise in total? And have you guys been able to build prototypes for all of those pieces that you've mentioned, including the truck?
We haven't gotten to the truck yet. That's on the docket for this year. We've done the concept and prototype of the platform. We've done the proof of concept and prototype of the battery technology. We've done all of that, including build the team, get to a facility that we can start to ramp up low volume production in as we start to build that out, with $2.4 million in funds raised.
Gotcha.
Just a quick question on why you were able to reduce the charge time. Is it just purely on the battery and the thermal regulation?
Yeah, so at a high level, the simplest answer to your question would be yes. If you want, there's a number of independent studies which I can send out to anybody that wants to take a look at those as kind of independent proof of what we're doing. But the challenge with charging quickly is in the chemistry and trying to work around that so you don't get things like what's called dendrite growth or SEI layer degradation. So basically think Samsung phone explode, or think your phone doesn't last more than a year. So it's solving those two problems. And the way to do that without trying to spend billions of dollars reinventing the wheel is actually to understand the chemical reactions, how they behave at different temperatures, and how do you control that reaction from a thermal management standpoint.
I guess, I mean, the other question I had was, the Tesla factory took years to build, and it is a huge build, right? And so why do you want to go into the car manufacturing business instead of the battery manufacturing business?
Yeah, fantastic question. So the battery business represents, if you look at energy storage, automotive world, and various other things, just in those two alone is a potential $1 trillion market that, unfortunately, because of the cost of batteries, every OEM, every energy storage company that's out there is actually trying to drive that cost to zero. So if we were to just get into that particular market, one, there's a lot of room for potential disruption with upcoming technologies, although our patent pending solution actually helps solve the challenges that are preventing things like solid state batteries to get to market today. But the real challenge is that downward slope, where if, let's say I want to sell a million batteries at $100 a piece today, I'm going to have to go to 10 million batteries to make the same revenue within 5 years, simply because it's headed towards that kind of relative zero number, right? They're trying to drive that cost down as much as they possibly can. The bigger opportunity that we see is in how we can leverage battery technology, the software, and some of the other technology we're building in an ecosystem approach. I come from Axon, where we pioneered subscription models and ecosystems for law enforcement with equipment and video cameras and software data solutions and data storage. So I'm looking at that opportunity in fleet markets and vehicle and hardware, as well as down to the component level.
Hey, Mark, I have a follow-up question to this. How would you succinctly describe the ultimate value? So not only what differentiates you, but the ultimate value that your product or ecosystem is bringing to the market. And the reason I ask this is that, I heard a lot about reducing downtime, but very little context about what that means for your end user, except for, I think there was one example where you said there are forklifts and it was avoiding downtime. But then I also heard you about the advantages of leasing agriculture vehicles versus owning them. So the question is, what's your core value to the end user?
Yeah, so I think it would be best described in a story. So my brother, he hangs drywall for a living, and he's looking to move from being an independent contractor working by himself to actually bringing on a team and moving into construction. So as he looks to that particular opportunity, he has to look for equipment that he can eventually bring on board for a very little low-cost model to start actually building that business up. Atlas wants to be the company that actually provides those equipment and technology solutions for individual startups or entrepreneurs that work in construction, agriculture, and various other work industries that are looking to kind of kick things off, and they need equipment and stuff like that. How do they get in there very cheaply, very simply? We want to be the company that you come to and say, I need 3 trucks. Okay, that starts at $2,100 a month. You start paying that right away. You can actually start your business. You can kick it off. You have equipment. You can keep things going. That's the long-term vision of where we want to go. The short-term vision, or the short-term approach, is how do we leverage the technology that we have today to generate revenue that helps us fund additional efforts as we continue to grow. So I'm looking at the battery technology and what value proposition does that bring today, which is in bringing downtime down, right, for things like forklifts and other equipment that have to charge quickly. And how do we leverage that to continue to grow beyond just that tiny little segment from a long-term perspective?
All right, and guys, we are in feedback.
Yeah, Sean here, Mark. Thanks for the prezo. I lived in Arizona for a long time, and Chandler still have a home there, so love seeing entrepreneurs come out of Arizona. I also have quite a few investments in the logistics and mobility and automotive space, and one of my partners is the founder of Rhino Corporation, Rhino Linings, and so he's been following you for a little while, and he shared some information with me today about Rivian, and then your position against Rivian, and then I think there's a couple of key risks here that are really obvious to me that I don't have answers to. Are you a platform, or are you a truck company? Are you a battery company? And then the proprietary charging infrastructure, I think, is a big risk, because, well, frankly, if you're going to go that route, you need to raise $500 million like Rivian did. Otherwise, it's the opposite end, which isn't bad either way. It's just if you've got a battery and you've got other components and you've got other interest in the B2B marketplace to start selling and generating revenue with the various components that you've innovated around your idea, you certainly don't need to raise as much money. And then the market, the VC market, as I'm sure you know, is going to look at you and your team and compare that against the Rivian team, which has got this deep automotive background and experience, and that you guys don't. Look, and believe me, I believe we live in the age of applied technology. So smart people can build stuff and apply it in a whole bunch of ways. To me, that's not the risk. It's just a perceived risk when you're talking to your run-of-the-mill Sand Hill guys that just, if you don't fit in their template, you don't fit in their template.
Yeah.
So I think getting clarity around my piece of feedback is figure out what you want to be when you grow up, and say that now, and develop your growth, your story around that. You know, your strategy to get early customers and drive revenue, and your capital requirements in support of that. Because I think you can get to all the other things later, but it's about, you know, staying, pardon the pun, staying on the road long enough.
I just want to add to that. I actually had the same thought when you mentioned the $700 per month. I totally agree with you that it's a much needed service and product for startups, but that's a capital leasing business. And it's probably not one that you want to talk about right now because VCs aren't usually interested in that type of business.
Yeah, I would add to that just to say that, you know, if they're going to want, you know, you're going to want capital leasing partners that are going to pay the $45,000 up front
Oh
to
yeah.
Atlas,
Yep.
right? And so I think to Gwen's point, part of what we have to do when we're pitching to VCs, because I've been on both sides of this for 25 years, right? Is make it reduce every key question that creates risk in their mind that gives them a reason not to talk to you again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so there's a whole series of little things that you can clean up that can tell the story in a way that keeps their attention longer and gets them interested in continuing to do due diligence with you. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was waiting for someone else to chime in. Thank you.
Yeah, Megan or and Brandon, would you like to also chime in?
I think that summed it up for me. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, same
Yeah,
here.
welcome.
Yeah, good job, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, guys, I think that concludes our event. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Thank you to the judges for your valuable and insightful comments. I strongly encourage you guys to continue conversation offline. And to our startups, thank you for sharing your ventures with our audience, and the rest of you for joining us today from the comforts of your home. It was a lively discussion. Thanks so much. Join us online for our other events throughout the week and next week. And I wish everyone a safe and comfortable week. and happy Memorial Day weekend. Oh, you know what?
Thank you, everyone.
You know what? Actually, I think if we're going to try to take a group picture. So I'm going to try to get everyone else back on. Hold on. Oh, did I just? Oops, not Elena. Who else am I? Okay, there we go. Scott. All right, so what? Here, I'm gonna. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Smile, everyone. There we go. Awesome.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everybody.